In this episode, we recap the matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens in week 1 of the NFL season, plus my predictions for the NFL season. Episode 45 of N1 from the End Zone starts now.
You're watching the latest episode of N1 from the End Zone. Please click on that subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops. Now, let's kick it. Before we get into it, ladies and gentlemen, this past weekend, 49ers wide receiver Ricky Pearsall was shot in the chest. Thankfully, the bullet missed all of his vital organs, and he's currently in a stable condition in the hospital. Our prayers go out. My prayers go out to Ricky Pearsall and his family. It's devastating that this has happened to him, especially because he didn't play in the preseason and now he has to deal with this. I don't know if we'll see him this season, but hopefully when he comes back, he'll get his opportunity to show what he's truly made of. I thought Ricky was going to be great this season. He was going to show you why we drafted him. He was going to be probably the replacement to Debo if we were to move off of him after this upcoming year. And to have this setback, my prayers go out to him, and hopefully we'll get to see how talented Ricky is when he gets back. It's a damn shame that this happened in San Francisco, in my personal opinion. We're supposed to love, respect the players that play for the 49ers and for our uniforms, and for all of this to happen because of a Rolex. Guys, go to work. Fuck, earn that shit. Ricky earned his Rolex. You guys need to earn your shit too. That's not okay. That's not right. And again, hopefully we get to see how talented Ricky is when he gets back on the field. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's turn to some positive news going on here at N1 from the End Zone. As we continue to grow, we have now surpassed over 4,200 subs. I appreciate all your love and support, and hopefully you are enjoying this content and you continue to tune in for more. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my takes by leaving a comment on the video. And now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's get into it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's my first half recap and takeaways from the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Baltimore Ravens in week 1 of the 2024-2025 season. In my honest opinion, the Chiefs looked great in the first half. The Baltimore Ravens were able to stop them a couple of times, and they even got a pick on Patrick Mahomes. In my personal opinion, I just don't know if they're going to be able to sustain it in the second half. I think Lamar's going to be gassed, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs are just going to work out the miscommunication errors that they suffered during this first half of football and ultimately dominate in the second half and come away with the W on their banner-raising night. We'll be right back with a second half recap once the game is over. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. The game concluded with a 27-20 victory for the Kansas City Chiefs over the Baltimore Ravens. And it came down to a toe being on the line in the end zone by Isaiah Likely. And the Baltimore Ravens just came up short. In my personal opinion, I feel like I was right. Essentially, that second half, it was 20-10 at one point. Yeah, they were able to score a touchdown and kick a field goal to make it a 7-point game. But realistically, I feel like Lamar panicked in that situation. I feel like the nerves got to him, like being that close to not even beating them, but taking them to overtime. I feel like in that game time situation, he panicked. There was a big mistake where they let the clock run down all the way down to 10 seconds when they had like 30 seconds on the clock. They could have played with 4 downs rather than just playing with 10 seconds and basically rushing each attempt. I think they only got 2 attempts off. That's on John Harbaugh or Lamar Jackson for not having a real sense of urgency. But to be completely honest with you, throughout the entire game, there was just never a doubt in my mind that the Kansas City Chiefs were going to be able to pull this off, and they ultimately did. And it kind of saved my ass too, because I recorded earlier this week my predictions for the NFL season, and I had them beating the Baltimore Ravens to open up the 2024-2025 season. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive into my NFL predictions for this year.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let's start off with the NFC East. I got the Eagles going 11-6. I got the Cowboys going 9-8 or 8-9 this year. I got the Commanders finishing 8-9, and I got the Giants finishing 3-14. Why do I have the Eagles winning the division? They have a wealth of talent on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. I believe Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio are going to be able to mitigate the bad head coaching skills of Nick Sirianni, and I believe Jalen Hurts Hurts needs to show the Eagles organization that the 2022-2023 season wasn't an aberration year, because the numbers that he posted last year are similar to the numbers he's posted throughout his career, other than that one Super Bowl year. So was that Super Bowl year an aberration year for Jalen Hurts? We shall see. For the sake of Jalen Hurts this year, he needs to show Howie Roseman that he is that quarterback that can lead that team, and that 2022-2023 is not an aberration year. We know Howie Roseman will move on from a quarterback or a head coach if the play is not there and if the team is not winning. So this year, Jalen Hurts has a lot of pressure on him. And I think with the offensive play calling of Kellen Moore and the defensive play calling of Vic Fangio, the Eagles should be an 11-6 team again this year and win that division. The reason why I believe the Dallas Cowboys are going to go either 9-8 or 8-9 this year, it's not because I'm a San Francisco 49er fan and I'm a hater. It's just because genuinely when you go down and you sit down and you actually do, because I did all 32 NFL teams and I gave them win-loss based on who they're playing and who they're not playing. And their schedule is harder this year. The fact that the offensive line for the Cowboys isn't as good as it's been in the past, Dak is probably going to be under duress a little bit more this year. So the pressure is going to be turned up a notch, especially with the entire pressure that Jerry Jones is putting on the team and head coach Mike McCarthy. Yes, they got the CD Lamb deal done, but because of the offensive line starting rookies, because their running backs now consist of Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook, are they going to have a viable running game? I think Dalvin Cook might have a little bit more in the tank than Ezekiel Elliott, in my personal opinion, but they also only have one legitimate wide receiver threat, which is CD Lamb. That's why they signed him. And the whole Dak Prescott contract looming. That's why they go 9-8 or 8-9. It all comes down to that Falcons game. We're going to see if Kirk Cousins is going to be able to elevate that team or not. When it comes to the Washington Commanders, I think the Washington Commanders with Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels are going to be able to surprise a lot of teams in the division. Personally, I was going to pick them to win the division, but then I looked at their schedule. I looked at their roster. I think Jaden Daniels and the fact that he's a mobile quarterback that can also throw the ball is going to be able to elevate that team tremendously, especially because of the lack of talent that they have on the offensive side of the ball. He's going to be similar to what Lamar Jackson is for the Baltimore Ravens, at least when Lamar started off. And that's why I think we're going to have Jaden Daniels this year go 8-9 this year with Dan Quinn. I think Dan Quinn is going to be able to elevate that defense, and they're going to surprise a lot of teams, and Jaden Daniels is going to be in contention for Rookie of the Year this year. When it comes to the New York Giants, I believe they need to move off of Joe Shane. They need to keep Brian Daboll, who I genuinely believe is a good head coach, but the moves that Joe Shane has made this offseason does not set the New York Giants up for success. It genuinely makes no sense, and I feel like he's the one that's holding Brian Daboll back. I don't think Brian Daboll should be moved off of this year. And I think what we saw the first year that when Brian Daboll took over and they made the playoffs, it was a mistake to give Daniel Jones that contract. And the fact that he was the general manager at the time that gave Daniel Jones that contract shows you that his decision-making skills aren't completely there. I would have given it to Saquon Barkley, who has clearly shown that he is the offense for the New York Giants. And that's also another reason why I believe the Eagles are going to go 11-6. Saquon Barkley is a tremendous upgrade for them at the running back position. No offense to DeAndre Swift. For the New York Giants, I think they're going to go 3-14 if they're lucky. Yes, Brian Daboll is a good head coach, but the offseason moves, what we saw from Hard Knocks, it just looks like a clown show over there, and that's why I have them going 3-14 this upcoming season.
Guys, have you heard? Shady Mob Productions is an official affiliate of HBO Max. Click on the link in the description and sign up so you can watch hit series like Hard Knocks, Game of Thrones, and House of Dragons. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
So moving on to the NFC North, ladies and gentlemen, I have the Lions winning that division with an 11-6 record or a 10-7 record. I have the Packers finishing second with a 10-7 record. I have the Bears finishing third with a 10-7 record. And I have the Vikings going 7-10 or 6-11 and finishing fourth. It's not going to be a disastrous year for the Vikings, but
I really don't believe in Sam Darnold all that much. And I think JJ McCarthy was going to be able to do tremendous things and make them a lot more competitive this year. I don't know if they would have surpassed 10 wins, or I don't know if they would have gotten to 10 wins, but I think JJ McCarthy could have gotten them a lot closer to 9 wins than Sam Darnold is capable of getting that team and that talent to 10 wins or 9 wins this upcoming year. So that's why I have them finishing fourth. When it comes to the Lions we're just in the NFC championship game. Their roster, it's still complete. I think they upgraded a couple positions, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Jair Gibbs might take another step forward. They just paid Amon-Ra St. Brown. Will he be able to maintain his level of play or even elevate that this upcoming year? We shall see. I personally believe Brandon Ayuk is a much better wide receiver, especially with what he does with the less amount of targets. But Amon-Ra St. Brown might be able to come in with a chip on his shoulder and show you why he deserves to be paid what he's getting paid. I don't believe in Jared Goff all that much when it comes to the playoffs, but during the regular season, he's been able to show you what he's made of and step it up. Will he be able to have back-to-back good seasons with the team? Is he good enough? We shall see. I believe he, especially in that division with so many young quarterbacks, he should be able to maintain the Lions as the division winner, make the playoffs again, and we'll see what happens in the playoffs. But I think 11-6 or 10-7 for the Lions is reasonable. So when it comes to the Packers, personally, I thought they were going to be a team that took a step back, 7-10, 8-9. Then I looked at their schedule. I did the wins, losses, and they're going to go 10-7 this year. At least that's what I got from my deductions. Until I see the Bears being able to overcome Green Bay, I'm going to still say Green Bay has the edge in that division rivalry. Maybe Caleb Williams changes that this year, but again, there's just too much history for me to just give the Bears a win in that column, if that makes sense. That's why I think the Packers this year are going to go 10-7. People may think I'm crazy, but that's literally how my predictions worked out until I see Caleb really play some NFL games and see him how he performs in that rivalry. I got to give the edge to Green Bay, and I'll even give them 2 wins. And I think they're going to be 2 close victories for the Packers in those games. When it comes to the Bears, they're going to go 10-7. With them going 10-7 this year, I believe they're going to finish third in the division just because the Packers were going to have that head-to-head rivalry go 2-0 with their way. But I still think the Bears are a great team this year and somebody that people should be fearing for in the long run. After this year, hopefully Caleb can live up to all the hype. And I don't think it's a lot of pressure. I just genuinely believe, looking at their roster, looking at the talent on both the offense and defensive side of the ball, looking at their offensive line, I think the Bears have a really good shot of making the playoffs this year and finishing 10-7. When it comes to Minnesota, I already told you guys, I just don't believe in Sam Darnold. I don't know why people do. Moving on. When it comes to the NFC South, ladies and gentlemen, I have the Falcons going 10-7 or 11-6. I got the Bucks taking a step back and finishing 7-10. I got the Saints finishing 5-12. I got the Panthers finishing 3-14. Look, I'm going to start with the Panthers first. I like Dave Canellis. I really do like him. I believe in him. I thought they were going to be a lot more competitive. But then, ladies and gentlemen, I looked at the schedule, I looked at the talent, and it was only good enough to get 3 victories. The 3 victories that I have them having this year are against the Bucks, against the Saints, and against the New York Giants. That's how bad the Giants are going to be. They're going to go 3-14, but they're going to lose the fucking Carolina Panthers. As much as I want Dave Canellis to be able to elevate Bryce Young, their schedule's pretty tough, and I just genuinely don't believe that they'll be able to muster more than 3 victories this upcoming year. They're probably going to be drafting a quarterback at the end of the season, unless Bryce Young makes significant strides this upcoming season, where it's close victories, but we see something there. I just don't know. When it comes to the Saints finishing 5-12 and third in that division, I just don't believe in Derek Carr. If they were to start Spencer Rattler, I might give him a victory or two more. I like Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler, before Caleb Williams was in the scene at Oklahoma, Spencer Rattler was the quarterback with Lincoln Riley. I think he let his ego and his personality get a little bit in the way, and that's why he dropped, I think, to the third or fourth round. I believe Spencer Rattler is a first round quarterback that was taken in the third round, who is going to show and impress a lot more. If the Saints at some point decide to go with Spencer Rattler as the starting quarterback, I think they'll win games. I think Spencer Rattler is talented, and I think Spencer Rattler, if he gets an opportunity to be a starter, would impress a lot of people. When it comes to Derek Carr being the starting quarterback, I just think Dennis Allen and Derek Carr are not a good quarterback head coach combo. And I think Derek Carr should have gone to a team that had an offensive minded head coach. Having a defensive minded head coach like Dennis Allen has handicapped him. And in my personal opinion, he just doesn't look like he can throw the ball anymore. I don't know what's going on with Derek Carr, but that move to the Saints, I just don't see them winning more than 5 games. The 5 games that I have them winning, I have them beating the Panthers in week 1, the Bucks, the Broncos, the Browns, and the Raiders. The reason why I have them beating the Raiders is because that's the Derek Carr revenge game. And I think Derek Carr wants to beat his old team, especially even though like there's a new coaching staff and everything. Like he should technically still be a Raider in my personal opinion. When it comes to the Bucks, the loss of Dave Canellis to the Panthers is a big one for Baker Mayfield. I think Dave Canales is a great offensive play caller, and I think that he was able to get the best out of Baker, similar to how Sean McVay was able to get the best out of Baker when he was with the Rams. We saw how about he was with the Carolina Panthers after he left the Browns. He was good with the Kevin Stefanski. Yes, he got injured, and then they decided to go with Deshaun Watson. Look at how that's turned out so far. But when it comes to the Bucks, I believe they're going to take a step back because we don't know what their new offensive coordinator is going to be able to do with Baker. Is he going to be able to get the best out of Baker? And I think he takes a step back this year. Now, when it comes to the Falcons, there's just too much talent. The addition of Matthew Judon, the addition of Justin Simmons is a big one for that team. Justin Simmons gets to be paired up with Jesse Bates III at the safety positions is going to be tremendous. Matthew Judon being another linebacker that they added is going to be able to bolster that defense tremendously. I like the direction, especially with Raheem Morris, who is a defensive-minded head coach. He's going to be able to elevate that defense, especially with the defensive players that he has. Now with Kirk Cousins, they have Drake London, they have Bijan Robinson, they have Kyle Pitts. Well, these guys finally live up to their draft picks. With Kirk Cousins at quarterback or with Michael Penix, they have a shot. I liked what I saw from Michael Penix in the preseason. I don't know why he didn't play more. I thought they should have played him a lot more. But if Kirk Cousins isn't ready to go by week 1 and Michael Penix has to start, then so be it. I think that it was a mistake to not let Michael Penix go out there and at least get a series or two here and there to be able to show you what he's made of, to be able to get a little bit more accustomed to NFL speed. But we'll wait and see. I still think the Falcons can go 10-7 or 11-6 based off their schedule and make the playoffs. For me, the only 50-50 game that they got is the one against the Cowboys.
If you're in the San Francisco Bay Area and want the best cut of your life, go check out Headspins Barbershop, located in South San Francisco, the official barbershop of N1 from the End Zone.
Now let's talk about the NFC West, where the best reside, ladies and gentlemen. I got the San Francisco 49ers finishing the season with a 14-3 or 13-4 record. The Rams going 12-5 or 11-6. The Arizona Cardinals going 9-8 or 8-9. And the Seattle Seahawks this year being the worst team in the division, going 3-14. Reason why I have Seattle going 3-14 is because it is an entirely new coaching staff. Will Geno Smith still be able to carry on the same level of play that he had under Pete Carroll? We shall wait and see. I think they still have Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Kenneth Walker is still their running back. So they have talent on the offensive side of the ball. Will the Seattle offense still be able to carry on that same level of play that they had under Pete Carroll as a head coach? We shall wait and see. The reason why I have them being 3-14 is because I see Seattle being similar to what the Arizona Cardinals were last year without Kyler Murray in Gannon's first year. So I think this year for the NFC West, I think that role goes to the Seattle Seahawks and they'll finish 3-14. Questions are going to be asked. What are they going to do with that quarterback position? What are they going to do with the other offensive pieces that they have on that team? And I think Seattle's heading towards a rebuild after this year. When it comes to the Arizona Cardinals finishing 9-8 or 8-9, I genuinely love the addition of Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Kyler Murray is finally maturing. So I think Kyler Murray is going to be able to help elevate the team, similar to what he did when he finally was able to play last year and come back. I think this year it'll be a 9-8 or 8-9 year for the Arizona Cardinals. Next year, I think they'll be competing for a playoff spot. But this year, it's another step in the progression under Gannon and Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray is going to solidify himself as a quarterback for the Cardinals again at the end of the season. And I think Marvin Harrison is going to help elevate the play of Kyler Murray this upcoming year. Great pairing for them to add him to the team. I also like some of the moves they made this offseason. They got rid of their veteran Hall of Fame, in my personal opinion, left tackle CJ Humphries. We'll see how that offensive line adjusts to his loss. But again, Kyler Murray this year is going to be a good quarterback. If you have him in fantasy, you guys are going to be getting a lot of points. So moving on to the Rams are going to be good this year. I thought the loss of Aaron Donald was going to be a big one this year, but they have a lot of offensive talent to be able to offset that. The biggest question is the same one that all these national media pundits keep forgetting. Will Matt Stafford be able to stay healthy? There's been far too many times throughout his career that Matt Stafford has not been able to stay healthy and see an entire season. Last year, he wasn't healthy. The year before that, I don't believe he finished out the season because he wasn't healthy. Will this be the year that he actually finishes out the season and stays healthy and maybe helps them get to a playoff, maybe an NFC championship game? We'll wait and we will see. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've noticed, but my clothes is different. And that is because when it comes to my San Francisco 49ers, I had to reshoot this segment. I had them going 50-50 if Trent hadn't signed his new deal. He did sign his new deal, and he signed it when I thought he was supposed to sign it. So I believe they're going to win week 1 against the Jets. They're going to get upset by the Minnesota Vikings in week 2. And I genuinely believe this is going to be a 13-4 or 14-3 season for the 49ers. Have them losing against the Kansas City Chiefs in that rematch. But overall, because the main core guys are back, because Brandon Ayuk got his deal done, because Trent Williams is going to be there, and because everybody, as of right now, is somewhat healthy, I think this is going to be a good year. I think Brock is going to be able to take a step forward in his development. This is year 3. This is year 2 for him as a full-time starter, year 3 for him in the league. I'm excited to see the development. Last year, I had Brock being my MVP favorite. This year, I think he might take a step back from the MVP conversation, but he's going to be a better overall quarterback, and he's going to lead the Niners into the playoffs. This team is going to be the second best team in football, in my personal opinion, just behind the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm excited. Another thing to note, all of the rookies that we drafted this year, except for Jared Kingston, made the roster. Ricky Pearsall, we might not see him this year, and that's because of the circumstances that happened to him at the autograph signing. But once we get him back, this has been one of the best drafts in my personal opinion, and hopefully that will translate into the regular season. And I'm genuinely excited for my San Francisco 49ers this year. We're going to have a great year. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Let's fucking go. Moving on to the NFC seeds, ladies and gentlemen. And the NFC seeds are going to go like this. 49ers are going to finish number 1 with a 14-3 or 13-4 record. The Eagles are going to finish 11-6 and get that number 2 seed because they're going to win the NFC East. The Lions are going to win the North with an 11-6 or 10-7 record. That could be up in the air depending with the Packers, but I think it'll either be the Lions or the Packers that win the NFC North. The Falcons win the NFC South with an 11-6 or 10-7 record. The Rams, being the second best team in the NFC conference, finish as the number 5 seed with a 12-5 or an 11-6 record. The Packers finish with a 10-7 record and get the number 6 seed. They could also win the division against the Lions. It just depends on who has the tiebreakers at that point if the Lions do finish 10-7. And the Bears are going to finish 10-7 and get that number 7 seed. So my two new teams from the NFC side that make the playoffs are going to be the Bears and the Falcons, and my Falcons are going to be my worst to first because of all the talent that they have added on that side of the ball. Because of all the talent that they've added on that roster, with the quarterback that they've drafted, with the quarterback that they've added, there's just a lot of positive things for the Falcons. And even though the Falcons have been a disappointment over the last few years, I think the Falcons are going to be able to elevate and actually make the playoffs and hopefully live up to expectations for the first time in who knows how long. Moving on to the AFC, ladies and gentlemen.
Guys, join me, Alex the Man Angelov, and check out A&A Radio, where we're going to be talking about the latest and greatest financial news, investments, banking, and personal finance. Check out the channel, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the AFC East, I got the Jets going 12-5 or 11-6 and winning the AFC East. I got the Dolphins going 11-6. I got the Bills going 9-8 or 8-9, and I got the Patriots going 3-14 this year. Let's start off with the Patriots. I am waiting to see with that new head coaching staff. I don't like the way that they are going with Jacoby Brissett, especially after Jared Mayo said that Drake May outperformed Jacoby Brissett in the preseason and probably earned that number 1 spot. He didn't say that he earned that number 1 spot, but he did say that he outplayed Jacoby. The reason why I think they're going with Brissett over Drake is because that offensive line is horrendous. They don't have any weapons. I don't think they want to put Drake May out there and set him up for failure. They want to set him up for success. So if he does start at some point this year, hopefully that'll be able to give them a spark. And hopefully by that point, the offensive line is going to be more in cohesion. Hopefully we'll be able to see some players starting to emerge as viable weapons for that team. But as of right now, I don't think they're going to be that good. We'll see what Jared Mayo does for year 2. Hopefully they'll be able to draft more offensive talent. Even if they lose the last few games and Drake May is starting, hopefully we see positive signs from Drake May that'll make sure that he's the starting quarterback going into next year, and they can use their first round pick for the upcoming season to help give him either a weapon or an offensive line or a running back or somebody that's going to help elevate that team's offense moving forward. When it comes to the Buffalo Bills, the reason why I have them going 9-8 or 8-9 this year is because in Josh Allen's entire career as a starter, he's never helped elevate an offensive weapon to be a star. They've had to go and sign somebody that was a star someplace else to come and be that offensive weapon for him and help elevate his play from a pocket quarterback perspective, because we know what he can do with his legs. When Stephon Diggs was on that team, he was the bona fide number 1 because he was a number 1 for the Minnesota Vikings. He was that caliber of player. He wasn't created by Josh Allen. Since Josh Allen has been in Buffalo, New York, he has not elevated or created anybody. Gabe Davis was a good player, but he never made him into a top star. He relies too much on his legs, and I don't think his decision-making is completely there. We're going to see in another year of Joe Brady, but when you look at their schedule and how it might go, I got them going either 9-8 or 8-9. I don't see him as a playoff team this year. There's a lot of questions on the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball as well. And I think they're going to be a middling average team. When it comes to the Dolphins, I have them going 11-6 because I think their schedule is very favorable for them early on in the season because it's not winter yet and because we know that the weather does affect Tua. Early on, I can see them going 7-0 to start off the season. They're going to be 11-6 this year, but I have them starting off 7-0, and that's mainly because the weather is in Tua's favor. They have the offensive weapons. I even think they have the defensive talent to be able to go 7-0. Then, after they beat the Cardinals at home, reality strikes in. It's November. It's starting to get cold. They're in Buffalo, New York, and they lose to the Buffalo Bills, ending their undefeated season. Frigid temperatures being Tua's weaknesses. That's why I have them going 11-6. I have them starting off 7-0 because the weather is going to be in their favor. And then towards the end of the season, once it starts getting colder, once they have to go on the road, for some reason, Tua can't play in cold climates. And I think that's going to impact where they finish this season. And they'll go 11-6 after starting off 7-0 and second in their division again. For the New York Jets, I have them going 12-5 or 11-6. For me, that Jags game is another 50-50 game. It's a coin flip. It could go either way. It just depends on who's playing better football at that point in time. That's another reason why they can either go 12-5 or 11-6. So after the Jags game, they beat the Rams, they beat the Bills, they beat the Dolphins going into the playoffs with a 3-game winning streak, while the Dolphins are going to be going into the playoffs off a 4-game losing streak, and they're going to be the division winner in the AFC East. When it comes to the AFC North, the Ravens are going to go either 13-4 or 12-5. The Bengals are going to go 12-5. The Browns might go 11-6, and the Steelers might go 6-11. Let's start off with the Steelers. So, for me, the Steelers won, especially because I'm a very strong believer in being 9-8, never having a losing season under Mike Tomlin. I think that they finally made the wrong decisions at quarterback that will jeopardize that. And they don't have a strong offensive line. I don't think they have enough weapons on the offensive side of the ball. I love Najee Harris and I like Jalen Warren, but because Pittsburgh offensive line is so weak, they don't get to shine. They don't get the yards per carry that I think they should be getting. George Pickens is the only real wide receiver threat that they have, and that's why they were going after Brandon Ayuk to help give them another weapon. I used to fear Russell Wilson in the NFC West when he was with Seattle. When he went to Denver, I thought he was going to be the quarterback that helped elevate them. After that first year, I haven't liked Russell Wilson. Even last year with Sean Payton, he played okay. But this upcoming year with the Steelers, and especially based off the preseason and everything that's been coming out of Pittsburgh, it's hard for me to believe that they will be able to maintain the standard, especially with the turbulence that there might be in the locker room, whether they should go with Fields, whether they should stick with Russ. Realistically, I think they could go 7-10. I think they could beat the Giants, and maybe they can beat the Commanders. They could go 6-11, but they could also go 8-9. I just don't see them going 9-8 this year. I really don't see them going 9-8 this year. When it comes to the Cleveland Browns, I like their defense way too much, I think, in my personal opinion. I might be overvaluing that defense, but will Deshaun Watson please stand up? Kevin Stefanski was able to do magnificent things with Demaryius Thompson-Robinson and Joe Flacco last year. He got them into the playoffs, and if Deshaun Watson is going to live up to his contract or live up to what he was supposed to be, I see there being no issues for the Browns to go 11-6 this year, especially with how built that defense is. I still like Amari Cooper. I know Nick Chubb is starting on the IR, but I think they have enough talent at the running back position to still be able to elevate that team's offense. And Deshaun Watson, if he is any semblance, if he is a fraction of what he was for the Texans, should be able to get this team to 11 wins, especially with the way that the schedule is laid out for them. For the Bengals, especially now that Joey B is back, I think they can go 12-5. The schedule is very favorable for them. And I genuinely do like Joe Burrow. I like T. Higgins. I like Jamar Chase. I don't know who the running back is for the upcoming season, but they still have a solid offensive line. Hopefully they can keep Joe Burrow up and can keep Joe Burrow healthy. I see them being able to make a viable playoff run. And then when it comes to the playoffs, we'll talk about that here at a later date. But I think the Bengals are going to be competitive. I also like their defense. They should be a good and viable team this upcoming year. When it comes to the Baltimore Ravens, I have them going 12-5 or 13-4 and winning the division. Because they have that tiebreaker against the Steelers, I think that's going to be enough to have them win the division and finish the season at a 12-5 record, but still be number one in the AFC North, because they'll have the tiebreaker over Cincinnati with that extra win in the division against the Steelers. I like their defense. I like Lamar Jackson. Will this be the year that they take another step forward? Derrick Henry is going to be able to relieve some of that running responsibilities from Lamar. So I'm excited to see where this plays out and where this goes.
Guys, have you heard? Nelson, tell the people.
Shady Mob Productions is an official affiliate of HBO Max. Click on the link in the description and sign up so you can watch hit series like Hard Knocks, Game of Thrones, and House of Dragons.
Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
Now let's talk about the AFC South, ladies and gentlemen. I got this year the Texans finishing a 13-4 or 14-3. I got the Jacksonville Jaguars going either 8-9 or 7-10. I got the Colts going 7-10 or 6-11. And I got the worst team in the National Football League being the Tennessee Titans, either going 0-17, which I think is probably unlikely, but 1-16, which I think is more than likely to happen this year. And they're going to have the number one pick next year. I think they're going to be picking Carson Beck, and then they're going to start their full rebuilding process with him next year. Let's start off with the Titans. The Titans' schedule is pretty difficult this upcoming year. They have a new coaching staff, and I think to fully embrace the rebuild, they're going to be going 0-17 or 1-16 and making sure that they get that number one pick and fully diving into that rebuild the following year. Yeah, they have DeAndre Hopkins, but that's really the only real notable name that they have out there. I'm trying to think of a secondary name that they might have on that roster, but none really come to mind. That division is harder. And I think the other teams have much better talent. Maybe they sweep the Colts, but I don't think they have enough talent in Tennessee to be able to beat the Jags and the Texans. It's one thing if Mike Vrabel was still the head coach there, because I'll give Mike Vrabel at least 3 or 4 wins just because I know his defensive mindset and I know the caliber of head coach he is. I don't know what this new head coach is going to be like for the Titans. And I don't know if Will Levis is even that guy at quarterback. So until I see something from the Titans this year, I think they're going to be an 0-17 or a 1-16 team this upcoming season. When it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars and the prince that was promised, I have them going 7-10 or 8-9. The reason why I have the Jacksonville Jaguars going either 7-10 or 8-9 this upcoming year is because of the fact that their schedule is tougher, and I am still waiting and seeing on Trevor Lawrence if he really is that guy. He doesn't have that much talent. Yes, he has Travis Etienne. He has Christian Kirk. I know they're making a big thing that they just added Gabe Davis, but they had Calvin Ridley last year, and I believe Calvin Ridley was a much better wide receiver than Gabe Davis. No offense to Gabe Davis. I just think that addition to Gabe Davis is way too overhyped. And yeah, they have Eric Armstead. That's my former defensive lineman. But I really think that that's really about it. I think they have 1 or 2 more players on that defensive side of the ball. But I still see their schedule being tough this year. And that's why I have them having either a 7-10 or 8-9 season. Now, when it comes to the division winners, the Houston Texans, I love me some CJ Stroud. They got Nico Collins. They got Tank Dell. They got Stephon Diggs. I think they just added Joe Mixon. Bro, that offensive side of the ball is stacked. I think they have a decent offensive line. And then they have Azir Al-Shair. He's one of our former linebackers for the San Francisco 49ers. He's a great talent. They have Will Anderson. They have Derek Stingley. They have D'Amico Ryans calling the plays for the defensive side of the ball. I believe I like what I see from the Houston Texans. I like CJ Stroud. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the AFC conference as a whole. I like the Texans. I really do like CJ Stroud. I call them 49ers South because of the amount of talent that they have on that team as a whole. So I'm excited to see what they do this upcoming season, and I have them finishing with a 13-4 or 14-3 record. Now let's talk about the AFC West, ladies and gentlemen, where the champs reside. I got the Chiefs finishing with a 15-2 record, Chargers finishing with the 13-4 record, Broncos going 6-11, and Raiders going 4-13. Raiders are going to have a long season ahead of them. I want Minshew Mania to take off. I want Minshew Mania to be amazing. Go crazy. I think Minshew Mania is the best quarterback for them at the moment, but that is still only going to be good enough for 4 wins because the schedule does not favor them. Antonio Pierce, yes, he is now the official head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders, but when you're the interim versus the official real head coach of the team, and when there are questions on your quarterback, questions on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, we're wait and see. Max Crosby, elite talent. Devontae Adams, another elite talent. Other than Devontae Adams and Max Crosby, who else do they have? Realistically, they're going to close off the season strong. They'll win 3 out of their last 4 games, and the Raider Nation is going to go crazy about the future. By that point, you'll be able to see which players are talented enough and help elevate that team for the future. They need to draft a quarterback next year. And I think they're going to be drafting either top 5 or definitely top 10 next year, but hopefully in the top 5 so they can pick up a quarterback because the Raiders need the quarterback of the future. When it comes to the Broncos finishing 6-11, I believe in Bo Nix. Personally, I thought they were going to be a lot better. But again, when you sit down, you do the schedule, you look at rosters, you look at talent. The way that I see it is I think they beat Seattle in week 1, and then they're going to lose to the Steelers, lose to the Bucks, lose to the Jets. And I think the Steelers are going to win despite Russell Wilson being on the field playing quarterback for them. I think the defense is just that good. And I think the way that Mike Tomlin calls that defense, especially against a rookie quarterback, goes a very long way. I have the Broncos beating the Raiders after the Jets. Bo Nix is a better quarterback than Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. They'll beat the Chargers early on, and it's also in Denver. I think they're going to be able to upset the Chargers at home. They'll beat the Panthers. They'll lose to the Ravens, lose to the Chiefs, beat the Falcons at home. Then I have them beating the Chiefs week 18. Because by that point, the Chiefs are going to be 15-1 and probably resting Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, and making sure that they're ready for the playoffs as well. When it comes to the Chargers, I love the Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh QB head coach pairing. I believe that that's going to help elevate Justin Herbert's career and hopefully the team to a playoff. The defensive side of the ball is still stacked with Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, even Derwin James. I've always liked Derwin James. I just think it was atrocious what Brandon Staley was doing, having all that breadth of talent on the defensive side of the ball and offensive side of the ball. When you have Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, and Justin Herbert, you should be a lot better than what you were. But this year, they have a lot less talent on the offensive side of the ball, or at least a lot less talent that was comparable to last year. They have Gus Edwards, who I think is a notch below Austin Eckler. The receivers, I think they're still wait and see. They just drafted a right tackle, Joe Alt, to go with Austin Slater. So the tackles, they're fucking set. They're going to be pounding that rock like a motherfucker and hopefully keeping Justin Herbert healthy. And Jim Harbaugh, he knows how to win. He took my team to the fucking Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick. You saw what he was able to do, and that's why they're going to go 13-4. By week 17, when they face the Patriots, they're going to be 13-3, and I have the Chiefs being 15-1 at that point in time. So when they go into week 17, even though they're going to be facing the Raiders, they're probably going to be resting their players for the playoffs, especially because they know at that point they won't be able to catch up to the Chiefs to win the division at that point in time. Now, when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, ladies and gentlemen, so I think the Chiefs this year are going to go 15-2 because they have the offensive and defensive talent. They have Chris Jones, they have Trent McDuffie, plus a plethora of young talent that's still developing. They just drafted Xavier Worthy. They have Rashee Rice, who is hopefully going to continue his development. Sky Moore, for some reason, he's fallen off, but I think he's going to be able to have a comeback year this year. They have Isaiah Pacheco. I think they still even have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of talent in general that's still young, developing, and has also been there for a while. So the Chiefs are going to be good this year. And I hate to say it because I'm a Niner fan. It pains me to say it. They're going to be 15-2, and they're going to be the best team in the NFL this upcoming year. They're going to lose to the Chargers in Los Angeles early on in the season, and everybody's going to be freaking out like, what the fuck is happening with the Chiefs, yada, yada, yada. Don't worry. It's okay. They need to lose a game this year, and I think that's going to be the game that they lose. They're going to lose to the Denver Broncos in Colorado. It won't mean that much because Kansas City is going to be probably resting Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce for the playoffs, get them ramped up and get them ready, and they're going to finish 15-2. And I genuinely believe that wholeheartedly. I think the AFC seeds are going to go as follows. The Chiefs are going to be 15-2 this season with the number 1 seed. The Texans are going to be 14-3 or 13-4 and have the number 2 seed. The Ravens are going to be 13-4 or 12-5 and have the 3 seed. The Jets are going to be 12-5 or 11-6 and have the 4 seed. The Chargers are going to be 13-4 and have the 5 seed. The Bengals are going to be 12-5 and have the 6 seed, and the Browns are going to be 11-6 and have the 7 seed. My 3 new teams for the AFC side that make the playoffs are the Jets, Chargers, and Bengals. I genuinely believe that the seeding and the division winners are going to go as follows, just based off the schedule, based off me seeing the rosters, seeing who's going to win, who's going to lose. Literally, I did all 32 teams, win, losses, and whatnots, made sure that everything was comparable cross eyes or whatever. I can already see the storylines, and I'm excited for this upcoming season. So don't forget to bet on my picks. We're going to be making a lot of money. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be right back with some empowering with positivity.
Guys, you're watching a Shady Mob production. Make sure to follow the Shady Mob podcast where we break down all the latest content and talk about life. Please make sure to share, like, comment, and subscribe so you can be notified when the latest content drops.
Time for empowering with positivity, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, we have finally made it to the NFL regular season. This is going to be a great year. This is my first year where I get to do week 1 to week 18 predictions plus playoffs. Started my podcast earlier in the year on January 1st, so I missed most of the NFL season. But this year, anyone from the end zone is going to be in the action from the get-go. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are my picks for the first week of the NFL regular season. Go bet them and go make some money. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the first game that I'm picking, I'm taking the Bengals over the Patriots on the money line. Usually week 1, I try to stay on the money line because it's so unpredictable. I'm taking the Bengals to win, but the Patriots to cover. I'm not going to be betting the Patriots to cover. I'm just going to be betting the Bengals to win. For the second game that I'm taking Arizona to beat the Buffalo Bills straight out. Take the 6.5 points. They're going to cover. I need to see what Buffalo and what Josh Allen can do without Stephon Diggs, without Gabe Davis, yes, they have a running game now, but I still like Arizona. I like the dual threat quarterback that is Kyler Murray. I like the addition of Marvin Harris, so I'm taking Arizona plus 6.5 over the Buffalo Bills. I'm taking the Browns minus 2.5 at home against the Cowboys. The offseason has been noisy. The pressure has been turned up on Dallas. And Kevin Stefanski, with what he showed that he could do with Joe Flacco, with DTR, last year getting them to the playoffs and him being viable. I think this year with Deshaun Watson, hopefully another year in the system, hopefully another offseason, everything might start clicking for him this year. And that's why I'm taking the Browns minus 2.5 over the Dallas Cowboys. The fourth game that I'm taking is the Texans minus 3 over the Colts. I believe the Texans are taking a step forward in their progression. They have Joe Mixon now. They have Tank Dell, Nico Collins back. They have Stephon Diggs on that offensive side of the ball. Their defense is also stacked. Derek Stingley. I like Derek Stingley. He's one of the top 5 cornerbacks in the league right now. D'Amico Ryans is an elite play caller on the defensive side of the ball. So I like the Texans minus 3 over the Colts, especially because Anthony Richardson, he's still developing and he's still learning the NFL game. He got injured last year with the Colts. And this year, the most important thing is for him to develop and for him to learn. There's probably going to be growing pains. But against the Texans, I think the Texans are going to blow out the Colts, frankly. And then finally, I'm taking the Broncos to cover versus Seattle. Seattle might win the game, but I think 6 points for the Denver Broncos is just too much. I like Bo Nix. They have an upgrade at quarterback, in my personal opinion. With Bo Nix, he's going to get the ball to Cortland Sutton. And I also like Sean Payton's play calling ability. Tom McDonald is a new head coach. We don't know what to expect from him. It's also a new offensive coordinator. It's an entirely new system and coaching staff for Seattle. And yes, they have Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith-Njigba, DK Metcalf, and Geno Smith. But we don't know what this coaching staff is going to be like. I know what I'm getting from Sean Payton with the Denver Broncos. And I think with Bo Nix as their quarterback, I think they cover and they shock the world and maybe even upset Seattle. But I'm not betting the Broncos to win. I'm just taking the Broncos plus 6 points over the Seattle Seahawks to cover. And yeah, guys, those are my picks for week 1. Stay tuned for N1 from the End Zone, and we're going to be giving you more picks for you to make some more money. Guys, please subscribe, like, and comment on the video. Share this with your friends, families, and partners. Make some money with my picks. Listen to my sports takes or just watch for some positivity. Always remember, desire is power, and if you desire to be great, you have the power to be great. Thank you for watching another episode of N1 from the End Zone. I love and appreciate you guys. Stay tuned for more.
Baby, you've been blaming me.